For more, I'd like to welcome James Zogby, the co-founder of the Arab American Institute. Thank you for speaking with us on BBC News. Throughout the war in Gaza, there have been several efforts to try to bring both sides to some kind of an agreement. Hamas now will be under immense pressure. Do you see this as a plan that they could feasibly agree to?
Sure, they can feasibly agree to it, and I think that they very well might. The problem is there's so many holes in this deal. It's more like a piece of Swiss cheese than anything else, and I worry that expectations will be created that simply will not be materialized because there's not going to be good faith on the Israeli side. I mean, Netanyahu has already stated what his objections are. The deal calls for removal of Israeli forces. He's already said we will not leave Gaza. Even in the deal, however, there's a perimeter inside Gaza where Israeli forces can stay, but that apparently is not enough for Benjamin Netanyahu. And what it is for people in Gaza is a continuation of the stranglehold that Israel has had over imports and exports into Gaza. So it's an iffy proposition at best. Certainly hope it works. I know that there's good faith on the Arab side. I'm just not sure there's good faith on the Israeli side. And I'm not sure I trust Donald Trump at the end of the day to be an arbiter of this.
There aren't many choices in arbiters here. And as you say, there has been good faith from the Arab states. We've got Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan. Also, the Palestinian Authority welcoming this plan, some of them calling it a sincere effort from Donald Trump. Is a deal better than no deal?
Look, a deal can be better than no deal. The question is it a deal? We have to see. And I think we won't learn right away whether it is or not. What we're seeing from the Israeli side, and this is not the first time that President Biden announced a deal back in 2024, went to the UN, got the UN to pass the deal and approve in the Security Council. And Netanyahu said through his spokesperson at the UN, we don't agree to this. And they didn't, and it was sabotaged. There was a deal in January 25. Same thing happened. So Israel says yes, but then there are caveats to the yes, which make it a deal breaker. So the question is Donald Trump going to crack the whip? Or is he going to allow Israel to do what they've done in Lebanon and Syria, which is to be the arbiter of the ceasefire, which means the bombing continues, the raids continue, the occupation continues, and they will determine whether the Palestinians are living up to the deal or not. So there's a lot of ifs here, and I just am not sure whether there will be the will to enforce it and whether there's good faith on the Israeli side to make it happen.
Well, perhaps you could expand a little bit on that, because that is exactly my next question. If we do see Hamas agree to this, in some ways call Israel's bluff and release all of the hostages, and if Israel, as you're saying, potentially doesn't enact this deal in good faith, could there be more serious international repercussions?
One would hope that the international repercussions would already have happened. Look, there's a genocide here. We've seen at count 66,000 Palestinians dead. We've seen mass starvation. The Israelis deny both. Even their own military in its reporting accepts both, that many have died, that most of them are civilians, that there is mass starvation. And yet the Israelis seem to operate according to a law of their own. I mean, the Israeli government operates as a law to its own. I mean, Israeli people are not always on board with this, but unfortunately, as I'm looking at the polling, Israel's shifting to the right, while the rest of the world is shifting to the left. The rest of the world is rejecting Israel, and Israel, its public opinion is stiffening and becoming harder. Netanyahu has been able to lead his country and his people astray. The question is, with no U.S. crackdown, even if the French and the Germans and everybody else cracks down and the U.S. doesn't, Netanyahu feels he can stick this out on his own and continue to do what he's doing. That's been the story for the last 2 years. And I fear that unless there's a crackdown from the U.S., a cutoff of weapons, some kind of sanctions that bring some pain to this government in Israel, this is just going to continue. It's got to be the U.S. that cracks the whip.
And just briefly before I let you go, as we've said, there was no Palestinian consultation as far as we understand on this plan. What is the view of the Palestinians on this regarding a possible Western-led government force for a post-war Gaza?
Well, we've polled on that, and what we have found is that that's not where their heads are at. They want a Palestinian government. In Gaza, there's not a lot of support for Hamas right now. Hamas's numbers have dried up in Gaza, but in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, on the other hand, there's a sense that the PA, the Palestinian Authority, has been discredited by the fact that Israel has sabotaged its ability to function. And now, even more so, the behavior of Israel in the West Bank has made the Palestinian Authority appear weaker and less credible, and in some cases, an agent of the occupation. That's a real problem. So, yeah, Hamas is weaker in Gaza, but Palestinians want a unified Palestinian governance that includes all elements of Palestinians, and they will accept an international force of Arab countries. They're not
Indeed.
interested
James,
in
I'm so sorry
Western
to jump in
unity.
there, but I'm afraid it is all we have time for at this hour. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, James
Thank you.
Zogby. The British Prime Minister